Welcome to Sushi Forum, week 109. Each week we look at proposals that are on the Sushi Discourse Forum, on Snapshot, or have already passed the voting process. This is an open community call, so everyone is welcome to join us up on stage anytime. We also have an AMA text questions channel available for those who wish to engage via text. And as always, welcome everyone.
Hey,
Yeah.
happy New Year almost.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I hope everybody had a good holiday and, ate a lot of good food, got some good presents, spent some time with the family. I uh I did.
I did none of those.
You spent time writing papers and punching numbers.
Yeah, yeah, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
dropped a just maybe like a loose guide of some topics we might want to cover on this one and or however you want to handle it, Zappa. You just kind of
yeah,
let
I,
me.
I guess the first thing is I just wanted to acknowledge the Merkel proposal passing on
Hmm.
Snapshot. Uh I see it was just pushed through right at quorum. Um yeah, I guess I don't know, man. Not as much voter engagement as the Kampai thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess people feel like it's kind of a foregone conclusion if
Yeah.
Golden Tree votes on it or one of the VCs.
Well, I think I mean this has been a proposal since what, April of 20. I'm already like acting like it's 2023. So uh, since April of this year, right?
Yeah,
I
Jiro put
believe.
it up a while back. April
Yeah.
19th is where it was at.
So I think there's like quite a lot of discussion that's had time to play out, and people have their opinions and their beliefs, and that's part of the process. I think the comparing the Campai proposal to the Merkle tree, is just more of like a time thing. I think it's probably less controversial as well, in all honesty. But I think it serves the health of the protocol. We're going to give, I believe, 90 days was what we're going to push to the implementation vote.
Okay.
So, like, so there'll be a social media push and the community. Anyone who's in the Discord, who follows Sushi on social media, the word will get out, and they'll have 90 days to claim their rewards. But yeah, I mean, this is something that's been in the community discussion ether for quite a long time. And I think too, maybe there was a little bit of voter fatigue with the Campai, um,
Yeah.
you know. So I think it's good that it got through. And I don't. My goal, kind of like, is how I had planned my first 90 to 120 days as head chef, was to come in and kind of try and get all the controversial or contentious things discussed, put up, passed or not, and then start 2023 with the product roadmap, with resources allocated, you know, um, focus on the organizational things to make the business layer of this stronger and scalable. And I honestly, I feel like we've accomplished 90% of everything I wanted to do by the by this year's end. So feeling like really great and like personally feeling really positive about heading into 2023 for sushi. Who knows where the bottom of the market is, but like we're closer to the bottom than we are to the previous top. So
Yeah, right. I
uh,
have no idea where the absolute bottom could even be.
yeah,
Yeah, especially with the regulation and world events unraveling over the next few months.
Oh, vape ape, can you hear me better now? I had turned the mic down because it seemed to really. Hmm.
It sounds pretty loud to me.
Really? Okay. Um, yeah, wherever the absolute bottom is, I think we're all probably going to miss it, just like we all missed the top. And so I'm like more just concerned about having a strong plan to get through however long, the total bear cycle is going to take, you know. I think 2023 will be pretty trying for the first half, maybe even the first three quarters. But like I've said on um, the previous AMAs, like survival, and I think I even posted this in like a couple of tweet threads. Like survival is worth so many multiples, right? So that's just like
Oh yeah,
making sure, yeah. So
yeah, like yeah. As you said, it's better, to go through a rough spot than to just hit zero and die altogether for sure.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah, I get the sentiments of people, man. Like, I I don't see it necessarily as theft, but like, oh, theft for like the clawback. I see it more like, I don't know, like if you went to a bank and like a new bank was starting up, right, and you were liquidity providing or banking to them, I don't know. It's maybe not the best analogy because I don't think the bank should necessarily be laundering or using your funds necessarily, right? But that's still what they do, to get your interest. I don't know, like you.
Well,
Sorry, yeah,
no, I would say like the analogy that maybe where you try to heading with this is like if you had like a safety deposit box, right, and you place something in there, and then
yeah. When is it null and void?
right,
You've been gone for too long, so you have to assume that you're just either dead or just,
right,
gone.
and typically you would there would be some terms and uh, the contract that you would sign to rent that box or to own it or whatever, right? And if the person died or whatever, it'd have to go through probate uh, and go through the court. Um, we don't have those terms, um, so this becomes like a consensus discussion. And I think ideally what would have happened is when it was put into place, there would have been some like redemption clause in there that the terms would be X, and you know that would be just kind of null and void. The discussion would be moot. But I think you know the way I look at this stuff is like, what is the value of sushi having rewards that it can reclaim after a fair redemption period versus not having those rewards, and the value of those rewards that it can allocate for hopefully like value accrual in the protocol, which should transfer to tokens, to token holders and stakeholders, right? So like the way I look at it is more like a business decision. And on the topic of like the analogy you were giving, it's like, unfortunately, I wasn't here at that time, or likely I would have made sure there were terms
Right.
put in place. And, just kind of working with what you have. And I won't get into the philosophical debate. I just put it up for discussion. And if the community votes for it, then it's something that we use. If they vote against it, then it's something that we don't have. Right. And I think, you can go around in circles about the philosophical debate of decentralized ownership and whether or not sushi's entitled to those rewards, but that's not what I focused on with this vote.
Yeah, I really won't get anywhere mulling around loops like that.
Yeah, and it's like at the end of the day, sometimes you don't really have, like, you have to make a decision, right? It's like the Campai stuff. Do you capture fees which come from the only revenue source to shore up the reserves of the treasury so that you can stay competitive and pay competitive wages and keep building through the bear market, because bear market's where you build a protocol that leverages growth in the bull, right? You don't want to be building in the bull, because then you're running around like chicken with its head cut off, trying to make things happen, and it's just a madhouse. If you put all of the foundation in place in the bear market, you can scale that much easier and much faster in the bull, and you're going to capture market share from those protocols that are building in the bull much easier than if you were like competing with them one-to-one in the bull, right? Because you didn't have the resources at hand, or you didn't plan, or you didn't build during the bear. So, I mean, I'm just like, this is the thing. And I've had a couple of spaces with like on Twitter spaces where I've discussed this stuff, like large communities and traders and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I just look at this as a business. And that's what I'm helping navigate as head chef, is the business layer. The protocol layer, it's immutable. Anybody can access it. But when you interact with the front end, which is the business layer, we have to do things to give that the resources for success that it needs. And so that's how I approach this stuff, which, some people like, some people don't like, but I think it's going to serve sushi best in this cycle and set it up for success in the next bull, whenever that happens.
Yeah. I'm holding out, man. I gotta hope we'll be fine.
I think we're in a great place now. I mean, honestly, like remove the controversy away from these proposals. What do the proposals do? Well, Campai gives us operating revenue, which means that we don't have to worry about our bottom line like we did before. We don't have to spend treasury assets, which makes our treasury have greater multiples to the upside in the next bull. That's huge. Like, that's a massive win. Like, removing any feelings away from it and just looking at it objectively. Merkle Tree, after the redemption period, right? Say we have 4 million. I don't know how many are going to get claimed, but say we get half of that back to the treasury, right? And those can be used in the new tokenomics to boost certain pools to attract liquidity at a greater clip than what would have otherwise been available. Well, that's huge. Now we're more competitive in greater amount of pools, or in certain pools where we want to incentivize liquidity to come, use our platform and leverage our new business model that we're developing. Like, these things are huge value adds to the protocol's health and its future. So, like, I mean, like I said, I'm super positive about it. And, that's why when you're in these roles, you make decisions, and like, sometimes you have to put your own personal feelings aside. And it's like, I don't personally enjoy having to go through these controversial things. But again, it's like, what's the bottom line? What are we trying to accomplish? What's best for sushi as a whole, not just one particular set of stakeholders, but all stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my philosophy on it, man. Like, I like totally respect your philosophy and other people who like want to talk about this stuff in a civil manner. It's totally that's the great thing about this space.
I empathize with both sides on that, and I see the necessity out of doing it, and I will admit, like, a 10 to 20% like APR on your sushi when it's down 50 to 80% in price from when you bought it doesn't really neutralize the loss there. I'm for just surviving and getting back to the next bull run, and trying to have a powerful product and token for sure.
I mean, I just think about the amount of value that you can capture as a stakeholder with a strong, well-funded project versus an anemic one that didn't make tough choices and wasn't willing to face those obstacles head on. And honestly, I think that sushi, it's a darling of the bull market. Had a lot of upside that it didn't previously capture. The treasury should have been diversified. All these things I've talked about already, kind of ad nauseum. But the goal is to get back to that point, right? So that these kind of decisions become one-offs of just like we did what we had to do in that time. And we set things up, we set the org up so that grants are more equitable, like we were talking about before we started the recording. But what should a grant look like? It shouldn't be all or nothing. It shouldn't be there should be, like, for instance, you go to Upwork, right? Or like freelancer, and you hire somebody, you don't pay them all up front, right? You
Oh yeah.
typically you do like Yeah, typically you do like a milestone based achievement disbursement, and as they deliver, they get a little bit more, and that's how you gate being taken advantage of, right? I also think there needs to be like better governance, transparency into the types of investments that sushi does in the future. There's some things that were like treasury was spent here and there in previous management to like try and give it a competitive advantage by like incubating other projects, but that probably could be done better. And so last week, I think it was, I put in the ideas and feedback channel um, some notes that I had put together for a governance dashboard, right? And so Cabbage has already come back to me with like the design for that dashboard. We've had a couple meetings about it. Like that's where I want to push things. I want to make this stuff more transparent and have the DAO kind of lead the space in a lot of these kind of decisions. But if you don't have the infrastructure in place to support the processes, it becomes really opaque. FUD happens. People get accused of stuff that may or may not be true. When just put the processes in place. There was another candidate, the other Jared, during the head chef candidacy that talked about operating systems. And that's like one thing that totally lacked on the governance side of things, I think, with sushi in the past is, there was kind of like a loose process of how things went. I think it needs to be very, it needs to be highly documented. It needs to follow a certain process. It needs to be stringent. And that's the way you're going to get the best outcomes. So that's part of the initiative of that dashboard and where I want to take us in 2023.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, if you go back to like the earliest points of the snapshot, it was a little bit more of a free for all. You could see with people posting like just random governance things. But I suppose it was a bit amorphous in like the
That's a good
time
word.
the time that we take to discuss things compared to like when we finally decide to, put them up the snapshot, and it
Mm.
isn't very consistent sometimes for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely you think about any kind of like sales job or prospecting job or executive job or whatever. You have a process you follow, you have a funnel, right? And so there needs to be some kind of qualifier to start the funnel, right? So whatever that's going to be for a proposal, proposals should meet that bar. Then they move into like a review period, right? So I don't know, maybe it's 45 days or 30 days. Uh, Additionally, I think financial ones that call from the treasury should go under greater scrutiny because they're taking from a limited resource, right? So that stuff that I'm working through right now is what does that governance process that funnel look like, right? So for instance, say this new, and we can segue, I guess, into the F Sushi thing. Say this F Sushi thing came up with the new governance dashboard, right? It would meet a qualifier. It would go into the funnel. It would get pre-vetted, right? It would meet some kind of ROI determiner. So you knew what you were getting for the 500K in X, Y, and Z environments, or returns. There'd be like a milestone based arrangement for the grant. Then it would move into full discussion. It's kind of like going to be based off what exists now, but just more um, hardened and documented and formal. Then it moves to the next. You've got, I don't know how many steps it'll be. Let's say it's 3 or 4 steps, and then finally it goes to snapshot. The Magi proposal that Copy Pasta put up, that is part of the tokenomics. He wants to help us build out all this stuff on chain, and I'd love to see all that happen and become part of that formal process. I think that's going to be something that is really positively received in the space, and could set some good standards, which would be great, I think, for Sushi to lead there.
Yeah, as Nick's saying here, as a multi-sig member, he'd really like to find all the data in a more centralized place, so be able to make more informed decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's the goal. And some of this came, actually, inspiration came from input like people like Nick, who, in my opinion, that quite often offer like very thoughtful input, which helps push Sushi forward, and not just keep us mired in, the past.
Hmm.
I don't, Zappa, if you want to.
Nick, you're in the general chat, not the AMA chat, just so you know. uh, so yeah, you were talking about this F sushi thing. You can go ahead and I'll link that. I see Levix he says he's not gonna even he's just gonna put it right up and skip the auditing on this one. It's funny.
Yeah, I don't know about doing things unaudited. Like, that's kind of I'm actually pretty risk adverse when it comes to this stuff. And like, I get his point about not trusting audit firms, but I think it's a good standard practice.
Right.
So for instance, like, say you don't do an audit and something happens, God forbid, right? Well, what's the narrative going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Right?
didn't even try.
Yeah, you didn't do your due diligence, and that you're going to be held to a greater level of, not that, I mean, maybe it's a poor choice of words to say a greater level of accountability, but you are in like the court of public opinion, right?
Right. Yeah, I can see that.
You know,
Yeah, get as many eyes as you possibly can on something, and yeah, really try to break it beforehand.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I see his point. There's a lot of things that slip through the cracks in those regards. Big protocol exploits. Not doing an audit is basically negligence.
Well, I don't want to go that route, because like, audits came after the advent of smart contracts, right? But it's for a protocol like Sushi, we have, at this point, there's more, we're not a custodian, so there's not like a standard fiduciary responsibility to funds, but we do have in my opinion, we have an obligation to make sure that we're putting products, which is another reason why we deprecated miso and kashi,
Kashi,
right?
yeah.
So like, I rather err on the side of caution, and will a audit completely remove the possibility of an exploit? No. But does it reduce the risk? Yes. So it's like, I think it's a good standard practice.
Yeah, all the mitigations you can possibly get. Dude, I do not like seeing people lose money in any regard.
No, man, it's horrible. Like, It's horrible, you know. It's a good proposal. I like the proposal. I just don't know if we're ready for it based on what we're doing with the tokenomics. I wanted to have a discussion with him and David. David's going to be back from Alaska in a couple of days, and it's going up on January 5th. Whether or not, uh, you know,
But
I mean,
yeah,
I like
and
what it
at the
proposes. It's just,
at the same time, I mean, I guess this was how this was designed, right? That anything could be built
mhm.
externally and added to the program stack, even if it's not curated or done by Sushi, right? So
Yeah, and that's fine. So like, that's fine. So the way I kind of delineate those two is that the front end, again, right? The front end, the brand has a greater level of due diligence because there is a public docs team that operates on behalf of the protocol. So like, we need to make sure that we're putting out things that follow some standard of due diligence, and anyone can build anything and leverage the tech and the protocol. But yeah, this is like a conversation I need to just have with him and Matt and David. And, saying putting it up on the 5th, I think doesn't give us enough time to kind of follow the due diligence that we'd like to have. So yeah, I'll reach out to him again and chat about it. I mean, I like seeing all the upside possible for sushi holders. That's awesome.
Django, it's 600K to join the World Economic Forum. What? Only that much? Yeah, Nick makes a good point. Yeah, it's all
Yeah,
about
Nick. Yeah,
optics there.
100%. That's what I was trying to say, and you articulated it perfectly.
26K for an attendance.
Wow. I'll be skipping out on that one.
That's actually less than I would have assumed.
Maybe it's a typo. Maybe it's 260K or 62K.
Oh, um,
Yeah.
Loso was asking about Sushi Guard. Have you talked to Sam recently by chance?
I actually have a call with Sam later today. We're trying to touch base over this past week, but I've just been super slammed with
Okay.
the tokenomics stuff. But yeah, we're chatting today. He's done, as far as I understand it. And maybe I shouldn't have said that because maybe I'm maybe I'm missing something in his messages. But as I understand it, it's done. Um, but no ETA on integration. And the call today is to discuss the final contracts and just how um, everything works and looks, and take it from there.
Yeah,
You're
you wouldn't
welcome,
catch
Lowe's.
me dead at a World Economic Forum meeting. um, all right. Well, as far as this F sushi thing goes, he is asking for a grant of 500,000 sushi for operation for a year.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's some more stuff we need to chat about. I don't think the treasury is in a place to issue 500,000 sushi. Um, Also, kind of going forward, having that governance slash grant based uh, kind of reorg put in place where we have some milestones, I think is going to be a lot healthier for the treasury. Um,
Yeah.
and so what would help here is, and he did provide some, like, tokenomics. There's the 3x3 weekly distribution, the weekly emissions. Like, there's some good stuff here, and this is why I wanted to have a chat with him and David. Because David is the math guy, and wanted to see how this all plays into what we're doing, because we had some plans to do stuff down the road, and if this plays into that sooner, it could make sense for the treasury to make those funds available. But if it's kind of too much too soon, um it might not. I don't want to say it might not be worth it, right? But that's kind of where I'm going with it, I guess. It just might not be worth it at this point, or at this time. So I think a conversation's in line.
Huh. Is he even going to do an airdrop with it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. He did make a little thread in general. For
Yeah, I
any
saw that.
yeah any input, I can link that too. Um, yeah, if anyone has any ideas to lend into that, I know Levex would be interested in getting people on board to work with them.
Yeah, I mean, like Matt, I guess, I'm just now seeing Matt's posts here, like in detail. Yeah, I mean, I think we just need to have a conversation.
All right. Um, I guess moving on then. Um, business plan for 2023. What is the business plan? I think I lost you.
No,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry, I was reading. Someone sent me a message. Business plan, right? So like tokenomics. So first of all, I think a couple people asked about tokenomics. Tokenomics plan is to release the white paper tomorrow. Um, there's going to be like an official marketing push behind it, but probably next week. But I plan to release it so that we meet our end of the year target, quoted target tomorrow. So everybody will be able to look over it. I've shared the draft. Like Zappy, you saw, I think, one of the most recent drafts.
Yeah, I saw you touched it up. It looks a lot nicer than the first version.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like the cabbage actually did that. I did. I did do that. But yeah, I mean, I think we lay out really well what we aim to accomplish. You have the charts in there, the proofs, the computational proofs is what I want to have David add in an appendix. I shared this with a couple of DeFi leaders, shall we say, and they were really positive about it, but they had mentioned, they'd like to see some of the computational proofs if were possible. And initially we had them added in there, but we took them out because we wanted to focus more on like, at the end of the day, most people they're not going to read and proof the math.
Right.
But if we're getting a request for it, that's fine. Well, I think we can put that in there in an appendix. The charts lay out how the algos and the proofs get us into these different tiers and kind of the market dynamic of how the balancing occurs. And then the rest of the plan focuses on just like the mechanics, X sushi, the time locking, and those tiers, incentives, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, um, I feel really positive about it because the way it plays into the business model where we're headed, with the DEX aggregation and deepening liquidity so that we can increase those swap routes and the amount of volume that we can scale up to is really what we want to incentivize with these tokenomics, right? And that is a holistic and sustainable solution that scales with market demand, right? So swaps are somewhat a byproduct of supply and demand in the market, right? The more demand you have, the more swaps that you're going to have, the more trading you're going to have. So we want a model that's elastic and is able to scale, and then also in periods of contraction that isn't diluting stakeholders, right? That's kind of the argument that most bootstrapped liquidity mining tokenomics or token models, they really like outlast their their benefit or their usefulness, and they become like highly dilutive, or they just drain to the full distribution of supply. No one cares anymore. The value of the protocol has been leached out, and then the protocol it either has enough treasury to survive and kind of it's found product market fit, or it just dies and languishes and becomes like a zombie protocol,
Right.
right? So that's what we're trying to avoid with this model.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, yeah, just quite a few installed. Like just some with. I see Savage in the chat. He knows them super high API or APYs that you get on some of the swaps for farming, some of the swap protocols. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen just like token prices just tank.
I
And
mean, I think, and then even like some of the really like promising models like the VE, right, early on, and I think VE works for Curve because Curve has a monopoly in a lot of ways on that part of the market, and so it works for them, but it also doesn't work for them because it's not, they're still down like everybody else, and that's going to happen regardless. The goal is to, again, with this model, the goal is to keep us in a target range of supply that is never more than X or never less than Y within a margin of, uh, no more than 2%. And with that model, we're able to incentivize the behaviors that we want to deepen liquidity, to give those rewards to X Sushi so that people who buy and hold still have exposure to some type of rewards mechanism, right? And we're using the revenue generated by the uh, by the exchange to help grow the protocol, and we do it in a way that's not, let's divert all the fees back to the treasury. That's a temporary solution. This solution and the tokenomics is sustainable and holistic. I truly believe that, and I've seen this work in a different, in a different implementation, um, quite effectively. So I think it'll work at scale with Sushi. And David has done a lot of modeling. I mean, he basically spent 3 months modeling, 2.5 months modeling. Yeah, models or whatever, but they also give you some level of expectation that you're at least thinking about things in the right area or not, if the model breaks.
all right, man. Well, I've been looking through it. I'm still parsing through and getting my head wrapped around the whole thing. But
I think there are going to be a lot of questions, and that's fine. Happy to discuss it.
yes, Savage emissions destroyed so many projects. Just crazy APRs.
Yeah, I mean the whole goal is just to like bootstrap liquidity, bootstrap treasury, and like most of the protocols don't even make money. Somebody tweeted out yesterday or the day before, they were like, only in crypto can you have a protocol, can you have businesses that do 350 million in revenue and have zero income,
Oh
or
yeah.
have, I forgot, I liked it. I probably gotta go through and find it, but I mean it's still true, right? Like,
I mean, there's a lot of startups that operate like that, right? I mean, even
true.
like Uber, right? I think even is Twitter in that camp? I know it's like a higher, scaling of value, right, or money, but wasn't Elon
Yeah.
saying that they only had runway for
For like a year.
yeah, for like even a year, like half a year or something like that, right?
Yeah, they had like a $9 billion hole that if they didn't do like X, Y, and Z at the end of next year, they would be like, they have an $8 or $9 billion hole. I mean, that's insane, right? Like Revolut, Revolut's another one. How many billions of dollars have they raised and they've not turned a profit? I
That's
mean, Amazon was like that for years, right? The first decade or something of their operation.
oh yeah, now they're absolute monolith. I didn't know Revolut was in that camp either. That's
Mm.
like the credit card, right? Debit credit card that you can get.
They're like a neobank. It's like a mobile app, web app, all online based banking
Oh, okay.
solution.
Kind of like Venmo, I guess, or
A little bit different, but similar kind of like fintech app product.
okay. I've seen friends use their cards. I just wasn't familiar with them.
Yeah, Revolut's they're the biggest one. Actually, they're not the biggest one. Nubank is the biggest one, and Nubank actually is profitable. It has like 3 times as many customers as Revolut, and has raised significantly less money. I'm just like remembering off the top of my head, but yeah, Nubank is the one, I think, one of the only ones that makes any money and has raised comparatively less,
Well, that's
exponentially
comforting,
less.
I guess, in its own way. We're not the only people struggling.
No, man, like 90, what is it? 98% of startups fail in the first 5 years. This is just a metric that's just the way it is, right? And people in crypto, I've said this for years because, I've had a couple of things that I raised money for and started that didn't do well. And, there's all kinds of reasons for why that happens. It's not the lack of passion or effort or whatever, but the major almost so 98% is almost all.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
That's like
that's a
so sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, that's pretty. Only 1 out of 50 people, essentially, 1 out of 50 projects.
Yeah. So that's quite a high barrier to overcome to be successful. And and I think like how that translates to sushi is like I think we've passed the things. We need a strong business model. And I think me and the team have put that together. Going into 2023, we're going to make that happen. It's the aggregation router, you know, uh, deeper liquidity pools, properly incentivized tokenomics, um, that meet scalability requirements and don't dilute stakeholders. That's a pretty big challenge, I think, to continually be able to offer incentives without diluting stakeholders. If this model works, which I think it will, and we are able to scale the business and do like a 10x on our market share, that's massive. Like just massive, massive, massive. We do what, like 20 million or 30 million a day in volume. Imagine I know I'm talking to you because you've seen the paper, but imagine like this token model in effect at a 10x of volume and fees. I mean, I don't believe there's another token model out there that does anything similar. So, I mean, I'm super bullish on it. I probably shouldn't say that. This isn't financial advice, but yeah, I'm super, super hopeful that this is going to put us on the right path.
Oh yeah, yeah, Jenny, we're in Florida. Not gonna say where, but we are here. Um, yeah. I see a couple people in the general chat saying that the earn page isn't working for them. It's working for me. Just public service announcement, everyone. Usually in like instances where you get like the application error, the client side error, I would recommend deleting your cookies, the cache for the site, and like restarting your browser. Is sometimes it snags on the bad data, you know. You need to clear it out, or make sure that you don't have a second wallet hooked up. Sometimes that can conflict and cause issues.
Also, if let me share this because I know a lot of people probably have stuff turned off in the like different channels turned off in the server, so maybe not everyone's seen this, but if you have, you can ignore it, but if you haven't, go check out the link I
Oh
just
yeah.
shared in the. Yeah, like Cabbage has done killer job with this design, and we're starting some of the UXR testing, right, so that we can get some feedback. And it only takes a minute or two to go do the user research questionnaire. You'll get a walkthrough of the new trading platform, advanced trading, pro trading. I don't know what we're going to call it right now, but it'll be in addition to the swap. But yeah, trying to capture that centralized exchange trading experience in on Sushi, in this new year.
Oh, dude, Sushi Pro is gonna be great.
Yeah. And what's really cool about this is people are going to say, oh, what about liquidity? Well, let's go back to the tokenomics and talk about how we're putting LPs at the forefront, right? And how we want to deepen these pools, and we want to make, we want to attract back LPs to the platform. We want to bring in, market makers, blah, 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 to help shore up this liquidity so that this experience becomes even better, right? And it's not just a really nice UI. You're getting, like a Bybit or a Binance trading experience without having to, while retaining custody of your funds. I mean, in my opinion, that's where we should be pushing this space. Like I get the use case for centralized exchanges. Like, they're great starting points for newbies. But I think if you've been in crypto for any period of time, it's just kind of like, personally, it's kind of lazy if you're mostly using centralized exchanges.
I'm just gonna drop that teaser in there. Yeah, we do ride alligators to work. That is true. Man, yeah, look how, dude, she did do a really good job at this. I liked I like the old one we used to have that name put up, but unfortunately that got kind of destroyed along the way.
I think there's a lot of stuff that had a lot of promise, that just didn't get the attention. Too much product surface area. We talked about this previously too, right? Not enough resources. It's tough to do this stuff in like a super decentralized fashion where every person, like, product team is independent, but they're not really, and they don't have the proper resources, but they kind of do. And then everybody's just like throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. And you got to have a core team that builds a core product, right?
Yeah,
And
and then
then
my favorite is when things like change after you've done something, and like all the work's kind of, just invalidated do the change of direction and stuff like that.
yeah, man, it's tough. And that's one of the things I'll be working on, really, in a concentrated effort in this next year, is getting the Sushi Studio set up, having a proper sub DAO model so that product teams can stand on their own, so that value is composable between Sushi and its Sushi Studios products and those teams, but that each team stands on its own, is accountable to its own hierarchy, and they operate independently. I think really that's the only way forward. Um, from a financial standpoint, I 100% believe that's the only way forward. You have to compartmentalize the financial resources and make teams reliant on their own successes, and accountable for their own failures. So, like, if you spin up a product in Sushi Studios and it fails, should that affect the Sushi core product? No, not from a treasury standpoint. So that's my main goal, with Sushi Studios going into the next year.
Cool. All right. It looks like the website issue has sorted itself out. I got a question from Nick right here. We had discussed and voted on streaming stipends for multi-sigs. Think we were going to stream via Furrow. When does that go into effect?
Uh, it's a good question.
Did
I think
Tangle got your addresses? Obviously, you would need him to be a signer. Yeah, look into that. Sure, I'll ask him what's
let's
up.
we should figure that out, and it should be pretty straightforward. Getting streams set up. I have Jiro set it up and get people going.
Yeah, sorry about that, Nick.
Yeah, we passed this already. What, like a month and a half ago?
Yeah,
Month ago?
I actually got sent. Tangle and I got sent a message about a protocol, like front end for the multi-sig, like new
Mm.
dashboard UI. Check it
Yeah,
out.
forward it to me,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, and Tangle's in Paris right now. Um, yeah, man. Let me get looped with you and. Oh, Meowshi. That's another thing. So yeah, we have Meowshi, Jared. You're familiar with that, yeah? Um, it's
Yeah,
like an X sushi for X sushi essentially. Uh, for the bento box.
right.
Um, I've seen very minute usage of it. I guess it's not a good time in the bear market since there's really not, I don't know, an incentivization to be using sushi for flash loans, be doing things, I guess. I don't know. But
Yeah, I would say let's if we want to chat about that, I would rather have David on and maybe even pull Jiro up. Sarang's actually been on the mend the last week and a half, so um, maybe it would be good to have all four of us up to chat about that stuff. But I haven't given it much thought at all, in full honesty.
it seemed like a good idea, it's just not really utilized. Um, yeah, I'd like to see more bento box strategies developed over time, for sure.
That's in the cards for sure. Like totally. Um, and that'll be a whole process, but we've talked about it quite a lot, and there's some good ideas. Could be kind of a cool thing for maybe some micro grants or something. You know,
Sarong has some good videos up on YouTube too, um, where he goes over building on the architecture.
yeah, yeah. He just did a whole presentation at ETH Dubai. I think that might be up on his YouTube.
Okay, I'll dig that up. Oh, any other anyone got anything they'd like to say or come up to say? I don't know if we have a whole lot left to talk about today. I see you got a section on a recap for the year. Um,
Yeah, I think it might be good for like time sakes. I know we're kind of getting on with it, but let me pull this up real quick. Matt actually posted like a 24 tweet part tweet thread. Let's see, where was it? And I think that he touched on a lot of great points. Oh my God, where is it?
yeah,
Hey, how Twitter does this. Okay, here it is. Let's just take it off mine.
the way it's all nested and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think as far as recaps concerned, I'm just gonna kind of like check out the tweet thread from Matt that I posted in the AMA text channel. I think it does a great job of recapping the development and things that prior to my tenure, because again I've been here since October 5th, so one quarter, and there's a whole other 3 quarters of the year that sushi was doing things and getting over obstacles and setting itself up for success. And I think Matt does a really great job of recapping all that and talking about where we as a team have discussed taking sushi in the new year. And I would say, go like the tweet, retweet it, spread the word. I think it's good for people to see that level of transparency and kind of pragmatism that Matt um, put into that thread.
Have you considered a new token with airdrop to replace sushi? I don't know, man. That's a pretty arduous task. I don't see why we would have to, or why we would really need to replace sushi. It's already out there and everybody's got it. Got their bag.
Yeah, yeah. The discussion we've had so far is that like there hasn't been any real need to do that, considering the mechanics of the tokenomics are what's really on display in the new model. And I think the token, I don't foresee us needing to do an airdrop to replace sushi. I think I think we'll be okay without it.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain in the butt to figure out logistically.
Yeah.
Um, Savage, have you considered supporting the Velas chain? Oh yeah, I've actually used Velas a few times. Um, yeah, I would pass it off to Alex. Just check it out.
Yeah, I would say Alex has probably chatted with their team. He and Truda are absolute beasts when it comes to prospecting and networking. I will say that we've had a lot of discussions about internally with BD and how things work together in the new business model. And one of the things that we're focused heavily on is integrating with networks that want to have a more equitable partnership with sushi than just liquidity mining rewards, right? We want to kind of be innovative in this area where network partners are incentivized to have protocols launch liquidity on sushi on their network so that they can benefit from the swaps um, in a way that we can not have to rely so heavily on those dilutive liquidity mining rewards. And so that's what we've actually already been doing this. I don't know, uh, Alex, if you don't want me to say anything, just drop a message in the chat to stop. But um, we've piloted this. And we're in discussions for piloting this with a couple of partners, and we've had some really great chats with some network partners that are already integrated that find it really interesting and are open to try it. And so I think that this goes back and talking about what are liquidity mining rewards. They're a way to bootstrap liquidity, incentivize LPs, and you have to move past them at some point, right? Because they're just, if you want to have a token supply that's attractive for people to buy into, and I don't mean like buy into invest, but to like buy in for utility, for governance, or whatever, um, it needs to have some kind of predictability, right? Some kind of sustainability. And if you're just constantly introducing new rewards to incentivize people, they're going out the door as quickly as people get them, right? So you just have constant sell pressure, and that's not something you want, because you want people to view your protocol as being sustainable, it being healthy, and that comes from the perception of value. And unfortunately, I think mostly in the token price, not the utility of the protocol. So this is an area where we've been trying to innovate and been getting some great initial feedback from network partners.
Vaporfy. I'm checking them out right now. Although Dex to Dex, I'm not sure where a partnership would be.
There's a franchise model. There's some cool things we're exploring with some other. Yeah, I'm not going to name any names there, but because nothing's like solidified yet. But
Yeah, we've had
there's.
several people ask for a franchise setup before.
Mhm.
Had forum posts about it. It's actually an interesting idea. Kind of cool. Like as far as I guess like tech stacks that like we're not like like I guess Solana, right? Or Cosmos. You get a team that could I don't know, like basically build sushi on non EVM setups or whatever. That'd be really interesting. I don't know how like that would work cross connectivity wise, but
Yeah, and Solana's in kind of a strange place right now. I think you know, they're
that was
coming
just
to
an
the dark.
idea or the first first network off the top of my head. Yeah, they're not doing too good price wise or network
Yeah, I
wise.
mean it's so strange too because like I actually think that they have a decent network and there's an obvious use case for them. It's just unfortunate that they're tagged, so they're entwined so intimately with the FTX collapse.
Right.
But I know a few teams that are building on it that really like the network, and we'll see what happens. I think the next 6 to 12 months are going to be really kind of telling for a lot of networks. Product market fit's going to be really important, and I think you'll see quite a few chains that just kind of they're not going to totally die, but they'll just languish and they won't get any market growth. And um,
There's so many out there. I forget about some of them sometimes. Like Polkadot. I haven't heard anything from them in a good minute or anything
well,
about them.
I think Gavin has moved. I don't want to misspeak, so maybe I'm totally wrong, but I think I read somewhere where the Gavin had moved on most of his attention to a new project or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there, but you know, um, I think Polkadot has something interesting going on. I've never done anything on it, so I
Yeah,
don't know.
I've not touched that. I used Loop Ring for the first time a few weeks ago, and like I didn't even realize this was a layer 2 for Ethereum, even though like I've seen it on Coinbase for ages, and yeah, right over my head.
Yeah, there's so many out there, and yeah, it's going to be a multi-chain world. I think it already kind of is, um, but doesn't mean it's not omni-chain. It's not going to be every chain. There are going to be winners and losers, and um,
Yeah, my
you know,
money's on Ethereum. That's that's the big
yeah, I
boy.
think Ethereum and Arbitrum. I really like that combination.
Yeah, I like
Um,
Arbitrum. I like Optimism as well.
yeah, they've got a good product. Uh, it's interesting that we're obviously in the picks and shovels business, being an exchange, being a DEX, and networks are obviously in the picks and shovels business. What I'm interested to see really in the next cycle, and we kind of got like a glimpse of it in this one, um, what are the actual use cases for all of this technology we're building, right?
Right.
It seems like in the prior cycle, maybe even the prior two cycles, we were talking more about the utility of currencies, right? Like Bitcoin was going to replace fiat, Ethereum was going to do uh, this, do that, replace banks, so on and so forth. And but I think honestly, the greatest product market fit that any one of these things has found, one of these pieces of tech have found, are stable coins. I mean,
Yeah.
can you think of anything else that beats the utility of a stable coin?
I mean, it's just good to have dollars on a very fast network that has no. I mean, really, the only thing holding you back is gas fees, right? There's no brokers, there's no, business hours. Everything is
Right.
fast, it's in your custody.
Stable coins allow you to leverage all of the current infrastructure that has been built to promote the utility, the same utility that was supposed to exist in Bitcoin, right? So like Bitcoin is arguably like a hedge, right? It's the precious metals of the digital asset world. And do you want to spend your gold or do you want to spend stable coins? Do you want to stay liquid in stable coins or in, you know, digital fiat so that you can pay your bills and stuff like that? And do you want to hedge your financial liabilities and your exposure to inflation with stuff stuff like Bitcoin, And I think this is an interesting narrative that's playing out. I'm not a financial analyst or macroeconomist or whatever, but looking at it, I just see stablecoins being pretty much the most utilitarian piece of technology on the retail side of this space. I mean, you can become your own bank. You can spend stable coins freely. You can send them to anybody, anywhere. I mean, you can do that with Bitcoin, right? All that stuff, but it's not one to one with the value of a dollar. You have to convert it, so on and so forth. And I don't know. I used it for dark market stuff in 2015. That utility was very useful.
Yes, illicit, not illicit dealings. Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is CBDCs. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean that's the co-opt,
Right. Yeah.
the co-op of the century, or maybe of the last 1,000 years. If those things are successful, I mean, the social credit score stuff, all this stuff being digitized, right? I mean, if you're a Christian and you're a believer in Revelations and all that stuff, it's
Oh, the
kind of
mark of the
like, okay,
beast or whatever.
mark of the beast.
Yeah.
You'll have to be coded to be able to interact, and so like obviously people are gonna they've kind of ascribed that narrative to all kinds of things over human history. But I mean, this is, in my opinion, like in the philosophical side of things, I would hate to see CBDCs become the status quo. And the reality is that they're trying to make that the reality because uh, do you want to give up control if you've had it for the last 200 years?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there are like the use cases, man. Like for example, I have a nephew who is he's on social security disability, right? And their
Mm-hmm.
stipulation is he can't have any more than $2,000 anytime in his bank account. He's not allowed to invest. Like he that's like his cap essentially. And that would just give him, because I mean, right now he can just kind of put the money under the table to his mom and quote unquote pay rent with it, right? And she can shore it up, and it's not an issue. But in the future, like Matt just like program money, like oh yeah, you literally hit the wallet cap. Um, yeah, you can't earn any more money until you spend it or something like that. That would be insanity to me.
See, I mean, that's the future. That's just the reality. Um, Governments want to it's just the bureaucracy. Like it's antithetical to freedom. And I'm not an anarchist, but I've been a libertarian since I could think straight. And and I just look at this. You're in a battle with entrenched interests that have become the status quo, and most people don't want to rock the boat, man. They don't want to. They just want to live their life. They want to kind of be left alone. They want to
Yeah, that's
have
me.
they
Certainly
want
me.
to. Well, no, I mean, you're not in that example as much as like what I'm saying is people just want kind of like they want to tune out, right? They don't want to be revolutionary. They want to go with the flow. Humans hate change. They love comfort, and they just want to live their happy lives. Like that's what the American dream kind of was just like you're slice of heaven, and you get to get the spoils of your work, and it's become kind of perverted, and now you have it being leveraged, the negative kind of side of that stuff being leveraged to press the thumb down on people. And if technology can help bureaucrats control more of your life so that they can enrich and empower themselves more, you're damn right that they're going to do it. Like, it's just naive to think otherwise. So, like, in the US, right, at kind of the foundational level, you have the checks and balances of our government codified, and that's what crypto really offers, right? Is that codification, code is law. Um, but you have to build utility on that so that people will adopt it without having to feel like they're breaking the status quo. You have to like embed yourself in the fabric of society. And I don't think, and this is what I was talking about at the beginning of this, I don't think crypto has gotten there yet. And all these black eyes like FTX and so on and so
Oh
forth,
yeah, they're not
it's
helping. That's
they don't help.
that's all I hear. Like if things, I talk to my family or a friend, it's usually It's either the scandal. Like they don't. Yeah, they don't like really. I don't have I don't have many friends who dabble in crypto, and usually it's just the crazy internet money, you know. And I talk more to like the layperson at the bar or whatever.
You know what's really great is I just started showing people. I'm like showing them what I can do. Like if I have 5 minutes, I'm just like, yeah, well, check this out. Cause they're like, oh, I put my money in my 401k or whatever. And you know, if it
Oh
makes
yeah,
money,
how you can
great.
move it around freely and yeah, make calls.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And like once people see that and you kind of walk them through, like education is huge, right?
I love
So you have
showing
to
them.
make,
I love showing them either scan in the block explorers. At the end of the
yeah,
big same note, but
and that's what you have to get people excited about. You need to hype them on the possibilities of the tech, not on token price mooning and like this NFT project is gonna, do
yeah, the
50x, whatever.
programmers love it. They actually look like looking at the source code and the hexadecimal hashes and all that. You know, the data.
Yeah,
Really interesting.
nerd's gonna nerd out, and that's awesome. But I'm talking about like the average person where, I can download a wallet in 30 seconds on my phone, and then I can, fund it with $50 in stable coins, and then I can send it wherever, and I can interact with this protocol. And if I want to put $10 over here on this thing, and you start to show people, and you take that intimidation level down, and you empower people with knowledge and utility, they get excited. And that's how you get adoption. You have to keep doing that. Like like if you've been in this industry for any significant amount of time and you're not educating people, like you need to reevaluate what you're doing here. Like when you're out talking about something, oh, FTX blew up, yeah, it's a scam, and you're not coming back with like a couple of rebuttals where you're like, well, FTX actually isn't crypto. FTX was like an outlier of what crypto is actually supposed to be, and here's why, and let me show you how it's actually supposed to work. And you kind of, you've got to start planting seeds. And that's the only way we're going to get past that. And that's the kind of mentality that's going to overcome, oppressive co-ops of technology like CBDCs. That's true.
Yeah, as GI Joe once said, knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, it's at least half the battle for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of got me going down the rabbit hole of philosophy on this stuff. But and I know we're coming up on time, like some some serious overage on time. But
No, it's good to hear that stuff, man. That's really what this is all about. At least like, sushi at its core and what it's supposed to be.
yeah, and it's super interesting to me too because I had a call a couple days ago with that large conglomerate that I've been chatting with or working with really for almost a year now. They have billions of dollars in assets that they want to move on chain, and they want to do all this stuff. And they're asking me about like FTX. So what's this mean for the industry? And they were feeling like kind of down because like, I was just like, man, this doesn't. It sucks for the people who are affected, and a lot of people are affected, but it does leave a black eye on the industry, but it doesn't affect the technology, right? If anything, it hards the case for what we're doing, like the part of the industry we're in, right? Self custody, DeFi. And I kind of like trying to rebuild that excitement for them. By the end of the call, they're like, okay, great, let's pick this back up in 2023. So Yeah, I think like our biggest is long-term participants or someone who's been in the industry for the better part of a decade now. I think like I view my responsibility and trying to build things that promote those philosophical views of what crypto, why crypto was invented, and educate people and just keep doing that. If I spend another 10 years in this industry or 20 or whatever it is, I just want to become personally like a huge resource for people to empower themselves. So,
It's
but
beautiful.
right now we're building sushi. So, let's build.
All right, man. I think that's a good place for us to tie it up today.
Yeah, you better stop me, man. I had like 3 espressos and you got me on philosophy and stuff. I won't shut up. So, yeah, that's a good spot, I think. I agree.
I had a coffee this morning at like 5 a.m. Then like took a nap. I woke up, my heart was racing. Like,
Oh,
oh
man.
man.
Doesn't really affect me anymore. I mean, it gives me that boost. I don't really, I used to crash kind of hardcore, but I read this. I'll give you one life hack and then we can end the stream. But if you wait at least 30 minutes after you wake up before you have coffee, uh, you're less likely to crash when the caffeine wears off
Oh yeah.
because like your metabolism has had time to like get to waking status, and your metabolic processes are all moving along correctly, and um, the receptors that coffee acts on, they get primed. So yeah, I usually wait like about an hour before I have coffee, and then I haven't crashed in years.
Oh, that's good to know. All right, guys. Um, that's all for today. I'm sorry about the po-ops. I'm still waiting for Tangle to give me the keys to that, but he was gonna move it over to the media sushi email. Give me and Bella the keys. But yeah. I hope everybody has had a Merry Christmas again. Happy New Year's, everyone. We will reconvene here in 2 weeks' time, and I'm gonna see if I can start getting some AMAs with other protocols like we used to back in the day.
Awesome.
Keep it you know, keep it fun and interesting. All
Yeah,
right.
we don't you don't want this to become me highly caffeinated ranting for an hour and a half every other Thursday.
It's not bad. I'd listen.
Eh. Awesome, man. You're doing a great job, Zach. And thanks everybody for tuning in, and expect to see the white paper drop tomorrow. Uh, and I'm looking forward to getting questions and chatting about it.
All right, everyone. Bye.